Hey guys, I wanted to take a minute and talk about the immunity boosting potential of our products and how they work. When we first launched this CBD COVID-19 brand, lots of people immediately were just thought that we were taking advantage of a situation and that our actions were in poor taste. I understand that a lot of people associate hemp and CBD with marijuana and getting high, but there are some fundamental differences between the two, and I don't think people understand. Let me point out first that I personally believe in the power of these products, and I have personally witnessed people calling in at a rate of $35,000 a month, ordering and telling us how it has helped them. I've heard mothers crying because their children were riding bicycles instead of having convulsions. I've had cancer patients telling us how they were out to dinner instead of being stuck in bed too nauseous to eat after their treatment. So in this first talk, I'm going to explain the difference between hemp and cannabis to you. Then I'm going to explain why it works as a medicine and why doctors aren't on board yet. Lastly, I'm going to give you a little education on what you should look for when you're purchasing CBD. So, okay, first, the difference between hemp and cannabis. To understand the difference between the two, you really need to understand what CBD is and what THC is. That will help you understand a little bit why I think they made CBD legal federally and cannabis still is illegal federally. CBD or cannabidiol has healing properties but it has no psychotropic effects. In other words, it does not make you high. It can relax you, relieve anxiety, reduce inflammation, and boost your immune system. CBD helps regulate homeostasis. Homeostasis is defined as the tendency towards a relatively stable equilibrium between interdependent elements, especially as maintained by physiological processes. In other words, it works with your body's natural balance. I think of your body in a strong athletic position. That's why I have our tagline as "Be as strong as you can be." So THC, or tetrahydrocannabinol, has healing properties as well as it does have psychotropic effects. Yes, THC is what gets you high. Most of you know that. It also has an excellent pain reliever. It reduces anxiety and can be a great sleep aid as well. I know veterans that were on THC said that they were finally sleeping at night, so I know that THC helps them a great deal. So the last thing I'll tell you about CBD and THC is that they are sometimes, in some situations, more beneficial if you take them together. That's called the entourage effect. The difference between hemp and cannabis is primarily, and what you see today is that it's just simply the amount of THC that the plant produces. It's the same plant, but the United States Farm Bill passed in 2018 that made hemp legal mentions that the plant has to be below 0.3 THC. That is considered hemp. Another section of the Farm Bill says that a plant below 0.3% Delta 9 THC is legal. So not total THC, but just Delta 9. And the reason is the Delta 9 is what gets you high. It's the THC in the plant that gets you high. The FDA says the total THC must be below 0.3%. And most world organizations are saying that total THC must be 0.3, and I don't want to get into why, but there's reasons behind it. Anything above 0.3 THC is considered cannabis and is not legal. It's legal in some states, of course, but it's not legal to send across state lines, because when you cross state lines, then you enter a federal situation. You may be asking yourself, will 0.3 THC make me high? No, it won't. I like to kind of compare it to an apple going bad on your counter, and it's starting to ferment, and you eat that apple, and that apple isn't going to make you high because there's not enough alcohol in the fermentation process, but it might make you sick. But anyway, but there's not enough THC in a hemp product to make you high. So why does it work as medicine, and why are all the doctors not on board yet? I want to first of all be clear that I don't believe that this is a cure for COVID-19. I'm not touting that, not saying that it is. But the first thing I'd like to point out in these intense times is, if you haven't already noticed, the government has kept open all of the cannabis dispensaries and CBD dispensaries because they are considered an essential service. So the government recognizes that these are medicines. So make no mistake, it's medicine. Your great-grandfather and your great-grandmother knew it, and it could be purchased over the counter at every general store until 1935. This is not a history lesson, so I'll save that for another talk. I hear on the news the term being thrown around about anecdotal evidence when they're talking about the potential cures for the coronavirus. Let's talk about what anecdotal evidence means. So, anecdotal is an adjective that means not necessarily true or reliable because it's based on personal accounts rather than facts or research. So when you hear the doctors say that the evidence for malaria and the malaria medication chloroquine and azithromycin is anecdotal, you know that it hasn't gone through the clinical trials that prove it works. However, people that are taking it are saying it's making them better, and doctors are prescribing it. So the information is anecdotal, but it's working for people. So it hasn't gone through all the clinical trials it needs to, but some people are saying it works, and I don't know if we have time for that. So anyway, New York State has begun the first large-scale clinical trial of chloroquine and azithromycin treatment on Tuesday, March 24th, 2020. So, cannabis and hemp are still considered anecdotal as far as their healing powers because of the very same reason. Why is that? It's been around for so long, and the reason is that it has been illegal in the United States to do clinical trials on it. It's Schedule I substance, and it was illegal to do trials on it. So this is why doctors are not on board yet. They want to see evidence in the accepted format with trials and submitting the results to peers and duplicating the process and everything that has to happen, and it just hasn't been legal yet. However, there are millions of people that will give you personal accounts about how it's helped them. And I'm one of those people. I take CBD every day. The two biggest things it does for me are sleep and inflammation reduction. I mean, I used to wake up in the middle of the night with what I used to call monkey mind, where I was just thinking too much and I couldn't go to sleep and I was overanalyzing my life or whatever. I don't do that anymore. I also used to wake up thinking I didn't want to bend over because my back was so sore. All that's gone as well. Generally, I'm a lot more calm and clear-headed. So, what you should look for when you're purchasing CBD, I took a cannabis certification course at Florida Gulf State University back in 2019. In that class, I learned that 85% of the CBD that was being sold on Amazon contained 0% CBD, and only 15% that was left contained trace amounts of CBD. And then of that 90% that only contained trace amounts, it wasn't enough to really do anything for you. So for a lot of people that have probably already tried CBD, they probably purchased something that either wasn't real or it didn't work for them. So it's a bit tricky with CBD because you don't get an immediate feeling from it. You don't get high like you would marijuana right when you take it. You may relax, you may feel a little tired, you may feel a little calmer sometimes, but it's not like a high. So what I can tell you about it is just to keep taking it. It's more like a vitamin or something like that you take every day. It's more of a residual effect that you get from it. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was the prices and what you should look for when you're paying for it. So the biggest thing to think about is the milligrams per per bottle. I mean, the milligrams are what they're basing the price on. And you can see typically with the tinctures, the little bottles, anywhere from, I don't know, $65 to, I mean, that's on the very low end, to $100 for 1,000 milligram tincture bottle. That is a bit about where the price is, and then the prices kind of go up from there. Our prices are much lower. So if you're looking, also our capsules are a full gram each. The pills are kind of large, but it's a full gram, so you get a big push from one of the capsules. Smoking is actually the most efficient way to get CBD into your body. Some people do not want to smoke. I'm not a big fan of smoking. I prefer capsules and the tinctures. I just put it in my coffee in the morning, and I go from there. So thank you so much for listening. I know I'm not the most exciting orator, but I just wanted to get that out there. I just want to conclude to say that 10% of all of our sales are going to the Coronavirus Relief Fund, and be as strong as you can be.